And we're live, although we're not because this is pre-recorded. This is the worst setup for a podcast.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, that took 20 minutes to set up this podcast.
We tried fucking everything.
And
I'm
we're
sorry
getting it.
it was one F-bomb, but
It's
we are
fine.
tired.
I don't.
It was...
I'll
Yeah.
throw an explicit tag on. It's fine. I don't care.
All right. We tried
So
Skype, we tried Discord, we tried StreamYard.
yeah, this is Live and Let's Discuss episode 3, where we talk about Goldfinger, which is, dare I say it, the gold standard of Bond films.
Indeed.
I don't know if it warrants that title, but we'll get into that. So, Goldfinger was the 7th Fleming Bond book. It's the third Bond film.
Yeah.
Is this the last one that Fleming was alive for?
I think he was alive for some parts of it. I don't know if he ever saw some of it. Let me double check the date. Because Goldfinger came out 1964.
Mm-hmm.
And let me check. Fleming, died August 1964.
Okay.
So it's possible he saw some of the filming.
Yeah.
Possible.
Because I know he wasn't alive for Thunderball, which is probably for the best. We'll get to that next month. But yeah, Goldfinger's an interesting one because it's sort of in both the novel and the film. It's not, there isn't this overarching like villain from other films or other stories in it.
Yeah, to some degree. I would
There's
say
a
the
little
book.
smash talk in the book.
Yes, but it's very forgettable.
Yeah,
Like it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. Yeah. Goldfinger's not part of Spectre in the film.
Yes, which is great because we just had, Dr. No from Russia with Love.
Mm-hmm.
Both had Spectre in it, setting up this organization, and this is completely standalone.
Yes, and I think that's why a lot of people like this film.
Oh yeah.
This is a kind of a blessing and a curse of the film. This is, of course, what people tend to think of when they think of James Bond.
Yeah.
Which it really sets up the womanizing and Bond girls dying. This is the first one that really starts doing that. Well, because the book's very violent towards women. That's one of the things that's kind of disturbing. There's a lot of disturbing things in the book. That it's dated. This is like one of those ones where I put this caveat when you go into Fleming books. They're incredibly misogynistic. They're incredibly racist for today's standards. And it's just, you get both of that in this. Odd Job Eats a Cat.
I would say it's the worst with Goldfinger because of one subplot in the book.
Oh yeah, and it's bad for the LGBTQ plus community.
I don't even think of it like with today's like political correctness and everything. I'm just confused why it is in there. Like I really don't get it.
Yeah, but, it doesn't fit. That's the flaw of the book. Well, do you want to give a summary of what this is about?
Oh, that's very, very simple. James Bond is sent to investigate what a man called Auric Goldfinger is doing. He's apparently doing some gold smuggling, and this leads Bond to discover Goldfinger's bigger plan, which is, well, it's different in the book and the film. He wants to go to Fort Knox, and that's where book and film differ, because in the book, he wants to steal the gold in Fort Knox. In the film, he wants to, blow it up. Bomb
yes.
it.
so that his gold will, like, what was it?
Will
Like,
become more,
it'll double in value, but it's more than double. It's like it'll become 8 times its value or something.
Yeah,
like that.
And this plot, this bad guy wants to destroy X so that his own X becomes more valuable, will show up in many future Bond films, like A View to a Kill or The World Is Not Enough, for example.
Yeah, and it works the best in this.
Oh yeah.
Because it's played straight. Whereas, like, definitely in The World Is Not Enough, because that movie's stupid. But also in A View to a Kill. A View to a Kill feels like a parody of Goldfinger.
In a lot of ways, yes.
It
also ages worse.
Oh, yeah. I'm dreading when we have to watch that.
Yeah.
Roger Moore and his facelift that made him look older.
Oh, yeah.
But that's a year ahead of us at this point. I want to point out some things in this because I did not care for this watch through of the film.
Ooh, hot take.
Yes. I'm not saying it's bad. It's not my favorite Connery Bond film.
Yeah, also not my favorite.
I prefer From Russia with Love over this.
Same.
And this is why. We're getting into the budget's getting bigger, so everything's going to be grander.
Yes. Which can be good and can be fun and great.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say this succeeds more than some of the later entries.
Yeah, it's.
But yeah, you are missing some of the more grounded spy stories, like the first two were.
Yeah, it's very different. Granted, it's better than. I'm glad this was here and we didn't have the transition from Russia with Love to Thunderball immediately.
Oh yes, because that would be like 3 times Spectre in a row, which would be like, I don't know.
It'd be too much. But there's no chemistry with Bond and any of the Bond girls in this. There's none.
Yeah, I mean, Connery is charming and great like previously, but yeah, I mean,
it comes.
Honor Blackman as Pussy Galore is great in and of itself, but there's something there that just doesn't click with me.
And I think I have an answer for this.
Mm-hmm.
All of the Bond interests, well, with the exception of Jill Masterton, they don't work in the book either.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, Pussy Galore's barely a character in the book.
No, she shows up in the last 80 pages.
I call it She Pulls a Spy Who Loved Me.
Yeah. that's a good phrase.
She shows up very much at the end, and she is clearly not attracted to men. And her whole gang, she's a gang leader in the book, because Goldfinger's whole plan in the book is he gets all these gangs together to help him rob Fort Knox, which they kind of do in the movie, but they throw a twist, which is neat. It's one of the pluses of the movie.
Yep. And also to point out, so in the book she leads like a lesbian New Yorker street gang.
Yes.
And they are helping Goldfinger, and I think they are supposed to be like dressed as like nurses and stuff.
Yes, they're dressed. They're all the gang members are dressed as medical staff for like an emergency, because they put a weird sleeping thing in the water that's going to actually kill them. Right,
and Pussy Galore in the movie is a pilot, and so are all her ladies. She's like, her instructor.
Yeah, and it worked fine for that. But also, Tilly Masterton, which is the other Bond girl. There's kind of three of them, but they're barely in the movie. Tilly's in there the most, and she's just killed.
Honestly,
and
this, I know. Tilly had a bigger role in the book, but honestly, I think that's a plus for the movie. Kind of.
Well, because I'm trying to think of the time. Two of these three Bond love interests, which Tilly really isn't. He thinks she's hot, but she has no desire to be with him because she doesn't like men. And they weren't going to put any sort of lesbian dynamic in there. They go for it at hair, and they don't commit to it whatsoever.
Yeah.
And that's frustrating. There's a few things that they decided, because this is when the films kind of begin to stop being adaptations of the book. Is right here.
In a sense,
yes. When a lot of details start getting just dumped out in favor of bigger set pieces. And we're crapping on Goldfinger quite a bit, and it is a great movie.
And I'm gonna say, I think this film is better than the book.
I disagree.
Honestly. Yeah, I know you disagree.
I right before this, I'm like, we're gonna have to have a talk, because there are elements of Goldfinger that I think is some of Ian Fleming's best writing he ever did. And it comes into that golf game.
Oh, yeah. That's great.
It is hearkening back to Casino Royale. We'll talk about this in a couple years. That's right. But I don't care about Baccarat. I don't care whatsoever. And that's what they're playing in Casino Royale. But Fleming writes it in a way that you care about it. Mm-hmm. He does the same thing about golf, which I find to be a joke sport. And I was so engaged in the golf game between Goldfinger and Bond. It's the best part of the book.
It's like 30 pages, only the golf scene.
Uh-huh. And you learn how to play golf, and you are engaged the whole time. And then afterwards, Bond gets invited to Goldfinger's house, then starts spying on things. He gets caught on camera, so he blames it on the cat, and then Goldfinger feeds the cat to Oddjob, which is horribly offensive, because Oddjob's
It's
Korean.
Also really, really funny. We should also mention
it's not...
Oddjob. I think it's funny in a twisted sense. But
I love cats too much for that. I kind of cried a little bit.
But we should point out, Oddjob in the film and the book is actually quite similar.
Yes.
Which might surprise people when we say, the books are much more grounded and realistic and some more gritty. No, Oddjob also has this hat.
He has the hat. He's more physical in the book, which would have been really cool to see in the film. But what we got, we also get to something that drove me nuts when I was really into martial arts, which is Sean Connery is one of the best fighters out of all the Bonds. He has a black belt in karate, and I think he has a judo background too, but don't quote me on that. I mean, he trained with Steven Seagal, and Steven Seagal broke his wrist, but we'll get to that when the eventuality will do. Never Say Never Again.
Oh,
because that happened before that film came out. But the fight choreography in Connery's films, with the exception of From Russia with Love, where that was a legitimate fight to the death brawl and felt real, they all feel terrible. They are terribly choreographed. Because, I mean, Connery's fighting with this guy in the beginning in Mexico, and he throws him into a bathtub and electrocutes him.
Oh yeah, which is played for jokes.
Yeah,
and I think many people would overlook this because the action scenes, while not choreographed great, they seem to go for a funny thing. With this fight with the guy he throws in the bathtub, and then he throws a lamp in and electrocutes him and makes a quip about it, which makes people like, oh yeah, that was a great action scene.
But the thing is, it was a thing in the 50s and 60s to speed up the film to make things look good. Because the way they punch would break your hands.
Oh, the speed up stuff was really noticeable, especially at the beginning when he's like in the water, like disguised. He has a duck on his head.
Yes.
And then he removes it, and it's so sped up for no reason.
You know what else was sped up? When Bond and Pussy Galore are throwing each other.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's how you court a lady. You use a judo throw on her. But to be fair, she threw him first.
Mm-hmm.
And they just started throwing each other. And then literally it cuts to her. She was tossed by a significantly larger man or two men into a pile so she'd fall neatly into the pile of hay. There was some weird editing. I've noticed that when we've been doing these not watch-alongs, but these rewatches, there's funky editing and funky dubbing in these movies.
Yes, especially dubbing.
Dubbing Goldfinger.
We can change the subject, talking about dubbing, about the main villain.
Yeah.
Ulrich Goldfinger, played by German actor Gerd Fröbe, who is dubbed almost the whole way through, because I'm pretty sure there were a couple of scenes where he actually spoke. Like, for example, his scene with the American criminals in his, hideout. There is one scene where he just starts screaming, like, what was his talk? Man has climbed Mount Everest, has gone to the bottom of the ocean, all this stuff, but we have never done great stuff in the criminal world.
Mm-hmm.
And he starts screaming it, and it, like, the audio drops. It's clearly not the same. Like, you can clearly hear it's dubbed over.
Mm-hmm.
The whole previous conversation.
I mean, them dismantling the car scene, that was the worst. It didn't match up, period. Like, we were talking about that at, like, the Spectre training facility, how the dub was wrong.
Mm.
And From Russia with Love. It happens quite a bit. Weird dubbing, weird blue screen.
Yes, and that goes into another thing. The locations here. So we start out in Miami, like after the pre-credits.
Yeah, we start out in Mexico. And the only reason you even know it's Mexico is if you've read the book.
Yep.
In the book, Bond has a nasty fight that he's reflecting on in the airport. And I want to bring this up because the setups for these two plots differ. Oh,
yeah. Because the one in the book is great. It has a great callback to a previous story.
To Casino Royale, which they didn't have the rights to, so they weren't... It was one of the people at the table when Bond's wins against Le Chiffre.
Mr. DuPont.
That's right, it is Mr. DuPont. And Bond does this thing for a favor, and because Mr. DuPont is losing all this money to Goldfinger. And that's how that's set up. In the movie, it's Felix Leiter has a message from M to Bond.
Yes, I can understand why they changed it, especially considering they didn't have the rights. Because in the book, it's very much like random, like coincidence that Mr. DuPont is talking about to Bond about Goldfinger, and later when Bond returns to London, M tells him, "Oh yeah, you have to investigate Goldfinger."
Also, Felix Leiter aged 20 years in 2 years because this is the first time they recast Felix Leiter. And it's...
Remember how much I gushed about how great Jack Lord was in Dr.
You won me over on that one.
Yeah, because he's so cool and you buy him as like Bond's American friend.
Yeah.
Felix in this one is an old grandpa.
He's a very chipper one. He is a chipper Felix.
Boy, oh boy. Yeah. And I think this was like done on purpose to make Bond look even cooler.
Yeah. I will say he's not the worst Felix Leiter.
Oh no.
He's
we will
not
get to the worst.
Living Daylights Felix Leiter.
Yeah. That guy.
I don't even think that guy was an actor.
I love how we didn't even. I don't think we ever talked about who we think is the worst Felix, but we do agree now. It's the one in Living Daylights.
That was a gamble, but I assume so. It's the one thing I hate about Living Daylights, but
yeah,
we'll get into that wonderful movie a while from now.
Yeah, but this started the trend of just recasting Felix.
Yeah, there's only been like 2 actors that have played Felix more than once.
Yeah, the guy from Live and Let Die and License to Kill, and of course Jeffrey Wright in the Daniel Craig ones.
In the reboot, yeah. But I'm trying to think of where we were going. There's just, I don't know.
The stuff in Miami. So
yeah,
the projection and stuff. Like, okay, at first you can tell they filmed stuff at this hotel in Miami. And I'm pretty sure Felix Leiter, who's walking around, was the only actor who was actually in Miami.
Yes.
Everything else was shot on a soundstage and then, just put his background in. And you can clearly see it with Connery and with Goldfinger.
Yeah, it looks wrong. Especially in HD. Let alone, I'm watching a 4K restoration.
And we should mention something like this can happen, like at the end of From Russia with Love, when they are in I think, Venice.
And that was
also all projected.
That was a very common thing to do at the end of a film. It was also common to expand it out into full widescreen at the time. So certain things in older movies will look wonky because of that. Also, I wanted to point something out, because I don't know if I pointed it out in the previous 2 episodes we've done. These movies are in a weird, not quite 16:9 aspect ratio because of the film stock they use. So you get these teeny tiny black bars around the whole screen. And I have a feeling, because Thunderball was done on a different film stock because they had to redo the gun barrel, that Thunderball will fit on my TV fine. But this one, because I think I said in our From Russia with Love review that Goldfinger was the first time Sean Connery did the gun barrel. That's not true. It's a stunt double still from when they filmed it for Dr. No. He does it in... I actually looked it up. It's the first time it's Thunderball.
All right.
So he only did his own gun barrel 3 times?
Yeah, Thunderball, He Only Lived Twice, and Diamonds.
Yeah, because there's no gun barrel in Never Say Never Again. Because they didn't have the...
they didn't have any rights
to that.
But speaking of the whole Miami thing, this brings me to my next point. Compared to the previous films, which we should mention, by the way, we have another director here, which you can tell.
Yes.
The previous 2 were directed by Terence Young, who would also return for Thunderball. And this one is the first of 4 James Bond films directed by Guy Hamilton. And this is definitely his best.
They would bring him in when they needed to fresh things up. Is what it seemed like. They were like, we need a refresh. And it didn't always work.
I mean, diamonds are forever.
Yes.
This masterpiece.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting film. But like, this is what like my mother thinks of when she thinks of a James Bond film, and she thinks of all the negativity towards women. And this is the first one that really gets into that. And just killing all the women. My mom hates these films with a passion. When Casino Royale, I'll talk about this in more detail when we review Casino Royale. She sent me out of the room when the interrogation scene happened. I was 12. I had watched far worse things than that at that point, but she didn't care. She was mad that this was happening. She sent me out of the room.
That's great.
But yeah, no, she hates this franchise with a passion. Also, she thinks of License to Kill. She hates License to Kill.
Oh.
Because it's horribly graphic violent film. That was the only one she ever saw in the theater. And all I can think of is, like, Lucky. I wanted to see License to Kill the theater. No, they'll never do that, you know? Like, we keep getting off topic, but, you know, I rewatched Empire Strikes Back. I saw it for the first time in the theater. They did this re-release for its 40th anniversary. And I saw it for, like, the 2 weeks that America was open during COVID for theaters. I saw it in those 2 weeks, and it was wonderful. And, like, now I'm thinking about it, I'm like, we'll never get License to Kill theatrical re-release.
It would be so great, like a double feature, Living Daylights, License to Kill.
They would never really do most of these Bond films as a re-release. You know what they do? What? They would do No Time to Die.
Yeah.
to teach us all a lesson. They'll have that when the theaters open up again. They'll have that for 5 years.
Oh God! But to get back on topic, talking about the Bond girls in here, a big difference, and like I said, I think it's better in the film. We have the sisters Jill and Tilly, right? And Jill is the one who gets killed first. Goldfinger's assistants that Bond flirts with and has a thing with.
Yeah, my favorite of the three of them. Because they have the chemistry. They have the best...
I would say.
Yeah.
So in the book, it's a little bit different because this whole thing with the card game and she helps Goldfinger cheating, that's the same in the film. But afterwards, Bond takes her with to London, I think, on a train.
No, he takes her upstate and she doesn't go with him to England.
All right. But whatever. Then, only way later in the story, when he already met her sister, Tilly, when she's trying to assassinate Goldfinger in his factory, only then does Bond learn that Jill was killed by gold paint. And in the movie, they changed it that he directly sees it, which I think works better.
Yes. Well, they both work for their respective mediums. Because you read, what was it, Trigger Mortis, which is the sequel, direct sequel book to Goldfinger?
Yes, I did.
There's gold paint stuff in that too, right?
Yes, and I wasn't a big fan of that scene where it happens.
Okay. The whole thing with the Goldfinger paint thing is it's creepy in the book.
In the book, it's directly a sex thing for Goldfinger himself.
Yes. Because we couldn't have another asexual villain like we did in From Russia with Love. So Ian Fleming finds I would almost say Stephen King-esque thing to put in his book. I don't remember where I was going with this. I don't know. The gold... Okay, here's what my problem with the gold paint in the film. And this has bothered me for a very long time. How did Oddjob put her there?
You mean on the bed or...
yeah, how did he put her on the bed? There is no smears of paint on those sheets.
I mean...
That's
Oddjob is a talented artist, I would say.
He probably did that karate stuff that he was doing that and oh god, I need to put my little rant in here. I really like Ian Fleming does a lot of research, and it's not entirely his fault because this was written in the 50s and karate wasn't well known, but he says the karate originated in China. Karate originated in Okinawa, which is an island in Japan. It's a Japanese martial art.
No.
That made me cry internally. So now I have to fact check every time Ian Fleming goes into like a history thing. It just requires more work when reading his books. But He probably did some like karate stuff and like threw her on the bed and the paint like flew off and then flew back on her. That's obviously how that would work.
Yeah, probably.
Um, yeah. Anyway, go. You can go continue with your.
Yeah, with the woman. Let's say, let's see. So
You,
Jill, I think is better here with how she dies. That's fine. Her sister Tilly. That's the thing. I think it's better in the film that Tilly dies earlier in the story, because in the book she just hangs around, captured alongside Bond in like Goldfinger's place for no apparent reason, and then she dies later on when she tries to escape from Bond because she's sure like, oh, Pussy will protect her, which is just like Fleming's commentary. Like, so she leaves Bond, this toxic masculine guy, and she wants to go to Pussy because Pussy will protect her. How subtle. And then Oddjob kills her.
Yeah. Tilly's useless in both. Just absolutely useless. It was so frustrating with her in the book because she's around longer. In the movie, the only positive thing about Tilly is that she drives a Mustang. She drives my favorite year of Mustang vehicles. So I kind of cry a little bit when Bond rips up the side of that Mustang.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's something to mention. In the book, he just crashes into her.
Yeah, well,
but in the
because
film, he has the Aston Martin with all the gadgets.
We didn't even talk about Q Branch. This is the first time Q Branch shows up in the films.
Yeah, second appearance of Desmond Llewellyn as Q, but this time in a bigger role in his own little laboratory.
This is when we get to see, this is like the classic stuff. Also, I don't like that they did this in the movie. Mm-hmm. So in the book, it is clear the Bentley is Bond's car.
Yes.
He's had two Bentleys. Because in Moonraker, the first one gets totaled beyond repair, and he ends up buying another one with the money he wins off of Drax, but we'll get to that when we talk about Moonraker next year. But so he's had two Bentleys at this point, and then in the movie they decide, oh, the Bentley's a property of England. He's now getting assigned an Aston Martin, which he gets assigned an Aston Martin in the book, and it's part of his cover. He gets a DB3, which was an old car at that point when they made the film, so he gets a DB5. And it's all tricked out with gadgets, like it's got an ejector seat, and it's got like smoke, and it's got a saw that he cuts a Mustang basically in half with, which they reference in Living Daylights, only it's a laser beam.
Oh, yeah.
Which I didn't think of that until this rewatch. And it's the first like tricked out Bond car. It's not the most ridiculous. It doesn't go underwater.
The most ridiculous Bond car is in Die Another Day.
I don't know.
Oh.
Because we have the submarine car in The Spy Who Loved Me.
Oh, that's a discussion for another day, but I would say the submarine car is useful. Why would you ever need an invisible car in like Iceland? Oh, you leave like tracks in the snow.
Oh man, both those cars are ugly too. In general. Anyway, I almost bought him that same year of Mustang Noah as my first car.
Ooh.
But the one I looked at, it had a vinyl top, and I lived in a wooded area that had pine trees that dropped a ton of sap, so that vinyl top would have been ruined. And it also was all crooked because it had been in an accident. And I was like, I can't fix that. I can't buy this. But yeah, She gets killed with the bowler hat. I do want
Yeah.
to bring up something, is that the actor who played Oddjob got horribly injured making this film because he genuinely got electrocuted.
Really?
Yeah.
In the scene at the end?
Uh-huh. And he held on to
Oh.
keep the thing going. He got burned.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Talk about being dedicated to your craft.
But I would say it was worth it because Oddjob is really awesome in this film.
Yeah.
Like, I really like him.
I like that Bond does some terrible martial arts on him and Oddjob just throws him around.
The end fight is so great because Oddjob is just, he looks so happy. He's just such a happy small guy.
He's having a good time. And
when he does like this hand move to Bond, like, okay, come on, continue.
And the thing is, so we haven't really discussed how tall Sean Connery is, but like it's very clear in this film he towers over everyone because he was like 6'3",
Mm-hmm.
and it's amusing to see Oddjob, who's like half his height, just tossing him around, because it reminded me a lot of when Roger Moore would fight Jaws.
Oh yeah.
They're just choreographed similarly.
Mm-hmm.
Only it's more frustrating in certain regards with Sean Connery because he can fight, whereas Roger Moore just pretended like he could fight.
Oh, so true.
Yeah, I won't get into that. But at least with that fight, it's not sped up.
No.
Although,
I would say this end fight is really great.
Yeah, it's grounded. It's more grounded than anything else really in this film.
Yeah.
Um,
But then you have, and this is an element I found weird, both in the book and in here. Felix and the Americans, like, they know about what Goldfinger is about to do, and they all pretend to be dead, basically.
yes.
I don't know if I like this too much, because
it's more convincing in the book, but not by much.
yeah.
I will say this when it comes to that thing. It feels dated. It feels like... have you ever seen the film Invasion USA with Chuck Norris?
I saw it when they discussed it on Best of the Worst.
Okay. Well, there's a scene when... It's at the end when Steven Seagal's destroying the office that has, like, no people in it.
Yeah.
Because they're all outside, and most of the terrorists run outside, and just the entire United States Army's out there, and there's a huge gun battle that ensues. That's what the end of a Goldfinger felt like. It's like,
did you find it great when Goldfinger removed his like trench coat and he wore like an American uniform under it?
It seemed really, yeah, I dug that. And then he like tricks some people and shoots them. Even though he's carrying a gold gun around.
Well, I guess we know who the true man with the golden gun was.
Which, we didn't talk about the opening credits. This is the first opening credits with the title song in there.
Yeah.
And
I like this evolution of the Bond title songs from Dr. No up to this one. And this would stay for all the rest of the Bond series.
Actually, it wouldn't. Her Majesty's doesn't have that.
Oh, right. That's only instrumental. That's true.
Yeah. Can I this is not my favorite Shirley Bassey song.
Oh. Which one is it?
Which one is my favorite?
Yeah.
Diamonds.
Oh.
I love Diamonds. It's the only thing I love about that movie.
That's okay. That's fair.
It's Goldfinger's fine. It's not the worst by any stretch of the imagination.
Oh no, it set the trend and everything. I would also say it's not my favorite Bond song. I would honestly, I don't know. I think I'm in the minority here, but I prefer Tom Jones' Thunderball.
For the 60s, yeah. I can see that. Actually, I don't know.
I prefer Johnny Cash's Thunderball.
Oh yeah, that's great, but that feels like a Western.
Yeah,
I didn't even know that existed until you brought that up to me.
it's awesome. I wish they went with it because that would be so
It's
hilarious watching it
better
today.
than the original version of Mr. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang,
Hmm.
which Shirley Bassey does a cover of it,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah,
it's
she did.
so much better than the original. And I was like, wow, why didn't they go with this? And then I realized, oh, because Shirley Bassey didn't. This wasn't her song, and that's a thing. Because doesn't Shirley Bassey also do Moonraker?
Yeah, she did. That was her last one, I think.
Well, I mean, she did the Quantum of Solace song, and they chose not to do it.
Oh yeah, because they are absolute geniuses.
Yeah. Let's
Oh, speaking of Quantum of Solace, our favorite. We keep bringing it up in every single discussion.
yeah, we bring
But
it up
we
every
have to
time
in
we
this
talk.
case. Yeah, we have to in this case because there's a pretty big homage to Goldfinger in it.
In Quantum of Solace?
Yeah, remember the girl on the bed covered in oil?
No.
You don't?
I don't. Oh. You see, I was confused because I was in between the water fight and the fire fight.
Oh yeah. Okay, remember, it's 4 elements.
Yes.
And in what order they go in the film.
Just wait until we get to Quantum of Solace, the review, and we'll be out of jokes.
Yeah. We are out of jokes before the discussion even begins. But yeah, Mark Forster, creative genius and director of Quantum of Solace, decided to, make a little reference to Goldfinger. At that woman in Bond's bedroom, lying on the bed covered in oil instead of gold.
Yeah, the one that he's having sex with after the love of an hour, after the love of his life has died.
Yeah. And she's named Strawberry Fields.
Yeah. I don't want to talk about Quantum of Solace.
All right, just to mention this little reference.
Can we talk... Well, first of all, I want to wrap up our discussion of Goldfinger with saying that I love that Goldfinger gets sucked out the window of a plane.
Yes, that's awesome.
That makes me laugh so much.
His Gerd Fröbe's face when he gets sucked out is so amazing.
Okay, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen Alien Resurrection?
Oh, I think so, when I was younger, but I never wanted to watch it again.
Do you remember when the Ripley's clone alien child gets ripped out? Which is funnier?
That's a good question, because the alien in Resurrection gets sucked out, the crotch.
And its guts get ripped out and stuff.
Yes, but with Gerd Fröbe is this big, fat German dude getting sucked out of an airplane window, and it looked like he's stuck for a second in the window. It's both very funny. I would go with Goldfinger.
You know what the Alien Resurrection one? It's a combination of Goldfinger's death and the death of the main villain in Live and Let Die, who was Yaphet Kotto, who was in Alien.
Oh, great connection. Rest in peace, Yaphet Kotto, by the way. He passed away this week.
What? Oh, yes. Man.
Sorry, you have to learn it this way.
He was one of my favorite. Every time I'd find him in a movie, be like, yeah, it's good to see him in there. That's a shame.
Yeah, really. Can't wait to talk about him in Live and Let Die.
It's one of the only things I'm looking forward to when we talk about Live and Let Die.
Yeah, but Goldfinger, overall, as a bad guy, I think he's great. I think he's a good villain.
Yeah.
I prefer Dr. No and Red Grant still.
Yeah. I appreciate there was something different.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. But I would say Dr. No and Red Grant are more like cold-blooded and menacing, which Goldfinger is definitely villainous, but a little bit more playful, I would say is the word.
Yeah, he's a little more sadistically playful.
Yeah, like the scene when he kills the mafioso guys, which is a big plot hole because I don't understand why he needs to tell them his plan if he's gonna kill them all anyway.
Yeah, I don't get it. It's neat. It's a neat
Yeah.
set. It was to show off their budget.
Oh yeah, with the scene that goes on forever. With the worst dialogue for American gangsters ever. They just point out.
What do you do with that trick pool table? Hey, it's like they were all the Fawns before the
Yeah.
Fawns came out.
What's the map doing there, huh? It's
You owe me $1 million. It's just the worst.
you know
where they're
what's funny in later films. I think even in Diamonds Are Forever it was when they brought in American gangster characters. They especially said they needed American scriptwriters to come in and help out with the dialogue because British people can't write this stuff. They were right.
Yeah.
Which also reminds me, a large portion of this film is set in Kentucky.
Yes.
We see Felix Leiter, the most in this film, eating at Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Mm-hmm.
Because I guess the British people filming this, they were amazed that there was a place called Kentucky Fried Chicken. Wow! And it's like, that's also a problem I have with the film. With the locations in general. Like, okay, the Miami stuff at the beginning. Okay. It's not working, but okay.
The Switzerland
but everything
stuff's
else
kind of bland.
The Swiss stuff.
Yeah.
The scene when Bond is following Goldfinger and Goldfinger stops and he's buying something to eat from the stand on the street, like that looks good.
Yeah.
But it's not like... I think Terence Young as a director is just better with locations, like really showing it.
Yeah. I don't know. It's an interesting movie. It's worth your time.
Oh, definitely.
I
would... Okay, to wrap it up, Goldfinger is a great film. It hits all the boxes. It set the standard for future Bond films. If it should have, it's debatable. Because, like, we prefer the grounded level of Dr. No and From Russia with Love. But this is still a great film.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't say it's overrated. I think it deserves its status as a great Bond film, definitely. But there are just little problems that I have with it, and I think that's fair.
Yeah, I think it's a solid film to watch. It's not my favorite, but I get why people love this film.
And
I get why people don't love this film.
Yep.
Can we talk about Trigger Mortis?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because
so you haven't read it, right?
No, I just bought it, actually.
Nice.
I found it in hardcover.
So I read it recently in preparation for this discussion because I wanted to bring it up. I was curious how much of a sequel it was going to be.
Also, it should be noted this book came out in our lifetime, definitely, in recent years.
Oh yeah, I think 2015-ish?
Yes, I want to say it came out before Spectre. And it's Anthony Howitz, who also wrote Devil May Care. He only wrote 2 Bond books.
Oh no, he actually wrote later on, 2017 or 18, he wrote Forever and a Day.
Oh, that's right, he did.
Yeah. Devil May Care was written by Sebastian Faulks as Ian Fleming, for some reason.
Well, I mean, John Gardner wrote as Ian Fleming.
Did he?
Yeah. Yeah, in America, that's how they're released. I'm almost certain of it.
Oh. Huh.
Well, it's Ian Fleming's Bond by John Gardner, you know, that sort of thing.
Oh, but with Devil May Care, it literally says Sebastian Faulks as Ian Fleming.
Oh, that was probably a marketing thing, because it'd been a while since we had a Bond book come out.
Yeah, I think it was an anniversary thing, Devil May Care. But yeah, Trigger Mortis. So, okay, for anyone curious, if it works as a standalone, how much it works as a sequel, the big thing it takes from Goldfinger is that Pussy Galore is in it, because I guess Anthony Horowitz was like a big fan of her character for some reason. Okay, fair enough.
I mean, Bond made her straight,
which is quite an achievement.
Yeah. Book, which is we didn't really touch upon that.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Literally, Noah was like, Jeremy, I need to tell you about this before I went in. And when Noah,
just so that you are prepared.
When Noah warns me, because Noah didn't warn me about Spy Who Loved Me.
Nope, you needed to experience that for yourself.
Yeah, but I appreciate you did prepare me, because I'll be honest, I was not prepared for the terminology in Live and Let Die. And I think I told you that. And then you're like, oh yeah, this one is when Bond makes a lesbian woman straight. And I'm like, oh really? Yeah. Yeah, because he can't get Tilly, so he hooks up with Pussy Galore.
Yes.
That's how I interpret it.
Because I don't want to go too much in depth with what Fleming writes here, but he's basically saying, oh, lesbian women are just confused because they never had a real man in their life.
Literally, this is brought up in either, because he does some commentary in Diamonds Are Forever. When we get to that in a few episodes, we'll discuss it, because two of the villains, Mr. Wit and Mr. Kidd, are gay. And Fleming's whole thing, it's either in Diamonds or it's in Goldfinger, is that these people are just confused, because I guess that was what people thought in the 50s,
or maybe just what Fleming thought.
Oh, it's possibly. Definitely all of these things are what Fleming's ideology is throughout this.
Yes, like his hatred for Russians.
His hatred for Russians, his white superiority, especially,
and all of that stuff is fun, but
it's. And this is why when we do these discussions, I put it at the beginning, because especially I didn't realize. Well, first of all, I started to realize something was weird, because in Barnes & Noble they don't stock Fleming books anymore.
Oh,
at all. You can never find them new at Barnes & Noble. I'm like, huh, that's peculiar. Because you really don't get that in Casino Royale. You get that Bond has has like a misogynistic thing to him, but it comes off as super naive in Casino. Mm-hmm. In Casino, the Joe Pesci film, Robert De Niro Joe Pesci film that Ian Fleming obviously wrote. No, I'm kidding. But when you get into Live and Let Die, this is when people have problems, and I see it all the time on Goodreads, where people are like, these books are so dated and offensive. And I always defend it with, that's part of the time period.
Yeah.
And
it's a sign of the times, and it has a charm to it. And what do they expect from a book written in the 50s that deals with the black people in New York? Mm-hmm. With criminals? What do you expect?
And yeah, we'll talk about that more when we talk about Live and Let Die.
Yes,
because we talked about it a bit in Dr. No.
Hmm?
But we'll get.
Oh, this reminds me of something regarding Goldfinger. I forgot to mention. Speaking of Dr. No, where where we have the Chinese people.
Yes.
Goldfinger in the book is in league with Smash, the Russian,
He pays them, yes. He runs their money. Which this is the last time we really deal with Smash.
Yeah, which is a shame.
Yeah, I was really we'll talk about it more next episode.
Mm-hmm.
That's the nail in the coffin for Smash, and it's kind of a whimper.
Yeah, I mean, I can still talk about Trigger Mortis because they show up.
What?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, is that?
But wait for it. My point. In the movie, Goldfinger seems to be working on his own, which he does. There's no Smash in the films, obviously. No Spectre in this one. But he works with the Chinese people.
Well, he works with Koreans.
No, 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 not with the Koreans. Bond specifically mentions to Goldfinger that he works with Red China.
Oh. Oh, that's
Because
right.
there's this one guy he walks with him through the factory.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and they work together, and they gave him a bomb, I think.
Mm-hmm.
They gave him the bomb. So that's interesting, because the Bond producers never wanted to offend the Russians,
Mm-hmm.
but the Chinese people, they were like, oh, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. That has to do with, I think, the American... Some of this stuff, there are Americans involved in these films. And at the time, this would have been the early 60s, America had indirectly fought China in the Korean War. So there was some anti-Chinese sentiment still from that. Because we're getting into the weeds here, but like China backed, the People's Republic of China backed North Korea in that war. Which wasn't even a war, it was a policing action, because there's a way of actually declaring war in America, and a lot of presidents don't actually do that. This was the president that started that. But I digress. But yeah, go on talking about the Trigger Mortis.
Okay, so the thing with Trigger Mortis is, Pussy Galore is in like the first 100 pages. She and Bond live together in his apartment in London for a while. I think the story begins like 2 weeks after Goldfinger, the book. And eventually, Bond gets assigned to a new mission. And this mission is really completely standalone. It's against Smash. And I don't know what nationality the bad guy had. I think he's Korean. He's called like Jason Sin. And it's a fun story. He's basically planning 9/11 in the 60s.
Oh.
Yeah, but not with like planes and stuff. But he wants to destroy like a large portion of New York with bombs underground on a train.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That would do it.
Yeah. And I think the whole Pussy Galore thing was kind of pointless. Like, she's there, okay, and then there's one scene which leads to her exiting the story and Bond's life, where she gets kidnapped by two, I guess, former henchmen of Goldfinger. They bring her to like a Stonehenge-esque place, strip her naked, and paint her in gold to trying to kill her and avenge Goldfinger, I guess.
Oh, that's
and Bond stops them. And then
unpleasant.
Pussy has enough and she returns to New York.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, I'm sorry, that's too much fan fiction-y shit here.
Yeah, that sounds stupid.
Yeah, which is a shame because the rest of the book is really damn good. But this is like, you could tell the author was a big fan of Goldfinger and Pussy and he just wanted to bring it in, but a little bit too much.
Interesting. I'm reading on Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Oh yeah, you told me about it.
Yeah, it doesn't work for me.
Why, may I ask? Specifically, is it something about the story, or?
So I'm at the point where Bond's is undercover in the Alps with Blofeld, and he's with all those young women that, and he's sleeping with one of them and stuff. It's the same thing that doesn't work for me in the movie because he's supposed to be in love with Teresa, is her name.
Yeah.
But I don't get the appeal. I got Vespa. Like, that made sense to me. Honestly, she's a fine Bond girl. understand the marriage angle thing of why he would even agree to do it. I mean, is he that desperate for Blofeld? I don't know. You're also talking. I haven't finished the book.
Oh, okay. Because it has nothing to do with Blofeld, really. It's really just Bond falling in love with her.
Well, because I haven't even gotten to that.
Huh.
He's just been up there. He thinks about her occasionally, and I'm just like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's weird. But I'm also still suffering from The Spy Who Loved Me.
Oh, yeah.
That was horrendous.
Which is weird, because I was thinking, if you hated Spy Who Loved Me, you're probably gonna love Majesties. Since...
Well, I love Thunderball, and we'll talk about that next episode.
All right. Because I think Majesties is like one of the best written Fleming books.
Some of it, is. I like the whole setup for it, but I'm just like, I'm in it. I'm just like, it's okay. It's fine. It's not terrible. I'm not hating it. It's just some of it I don't get.
All right.
I'm worried though, because you only live twice.
Oh.
I'm
why?
worried. I'm worried that I'm going to be irritated by the end of this. And I'm going to be like, Noah, why is this like this?
Oh boy. Well, just know the story is basically the same. Like in OHMSS, it's basically the same story in film and book.
Mm-hmm.
So you basically know what to expect. You only live twice. Many people don't like, and I guess this is a slight spoiler, but You Only Live Twice might be my favorite Fleming book.
You've said that to me before.
Yeah. Okay. But it is divisive, because the first half of You Only Live Twice is really just a travelogue about how much Fleming enjoyed his time in Japan. But I think he does great job with Bond as a character in it. And the final showdown with Blofeld is awesome.
Okay.
Like, I can guarantee you it's better than Diamonds Are Forever, the end fight with Blofeld, or Bond throwing Blofeld down a chimney.
Oh, and For Your Eyes Only.
What an epic way to go out. Did you know he was played by Lobot in that scene?
Was he really? I didn't know that.
Yes, that was the same actor, but not the same voice.
I was watching this on... this is the last thing before we end this recording, because I'm really tired.
All right.
When I first saw On Her Majesty's Secret Service, I watched it on Spike TV, had the rights to it at the time. I do believe that was the network. Then after that, it opened with For Your Eyes Only.
Oh.
And it worked really well as Bond getting his revenge on Blofeld.
What Diamonds Are Forever should have been.
Yeah, just throwing him down a chimney. Oh gosh, it's so Roger Moore.
Yeah.
I'm a little worried about rewatching these Roger Moore films.
Well, I would say they are mostly gonna be fun. Mostly.
Yeah. Because we've been watching good films. We don't have very many left before we get into camp material.
Yeah. That's why I say the 60s were the golden age.
All I have to say, Noah, is it's a long ways from On Her Majesty's Secret Service to Living Daylights.
Yeah.
It's going to be a year.
Oof.
It's a year.
I mean, there's nothing against Roger Moore. There's good stuff.
It's not Roger Moore. I want to make this clear, though, before we leave. Because we're crapping on Roger Moore right now, and we crap on Daniel Craig all the time. It's not these actors' faults that the films are like this.
Yes, and I want to make clear, Roger Moore is always the best part of his films.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he's very charismatic. He's great in it. Daniel Craig is another topic, which we don't need to get into.
That's not Daniel Craig's fault. I don't think.
Oh yeah, that's the Jason Bourne influence a little bit.
Yeah, is that what we tackle next in this podcast after we run out of Bond films?
Yeah, and then on to Mission Impossible, and then Austin Powers.
Actually, I did think we should do Austin Powers because we're going to be we're going to cover Casino Royale 67 in a couple of years.
Oh, great! The best Casino Royale.
Is it?
No, I would say the Daniel Craig film, then the 1954 version, and then the spoof Casino Royale.
Well, I think we should sign off for tonight.
All right. So that was Goldfinger and a little bit random stuff.
Yeah, and talking about Trigger Mortis because I wanted to cover that. Eventually, I think I think we'll tackle the Gardner books and the stuff like that eventually on here.
Oh yeah, sure.
And then we'll talk about Trigger Mortis again in more detail.
Oh yeah, fine. The Gardner stuff is gonna be fun. That will make Roger Moore look like Sean Connery.
Yeah. Oof. Now you're getting me worried on this. So many worries in this podcast. Anyway, guys, have a good day.
Goodbye.